What if I told you that the biggest party on planet Earth didn't start with samba, didn't start in Rio de Janeiro, and wasn't even invented by a Brazilian? Hold that thought, because in the next 10 minutes, you're going to discover secrets about Rio de Janeiro's carnival that 99% of people who've been there never knew. Data the media doesn't show. Stories that history books skipped. And one or two things that will make you look at the Sambadrome with completely different eyes. Stay here, because this is going to change everything you think you know about Carnival. Let's start from the beginning. The Carnival you know today, with that explosion of colors, glitter, costumes, and lots of sweat, has its origins in medieval Europe. Yes, Europe. The word carnival comes from the Latin carnevale, which literally means farewell to meat. It was a Christian celebration before Lent, when people ate, drank, and did everything they couldn't do for the following 40 days. But when it arrived in Brazil in the 17th century, the Portuguese brought a version called intrudo, which was basically a street war. People threw rotten lemons, flour, eggs, and even dirty water at each other. It was chaos. It was violent, and it was official. The intrudo was banned several times by Rio's police, but the people didn't care. They kept throwing everything at everyone, because Brazilians during Carnival don't even obey the police. Here's a 1% knowledge curiosity. In 1853, Rio de Janeiro's Jornal do Comércio published an article demanding authorities put an end to the intrudo once and for all, calling the celebration barbaric and disgusting. Today, that same carnival generates more than $1.8 billion in just 7 days. Ironic, isn't it? Now here's something most people don't know. When people talk about Rio's carnival, everyone thinks about the Sambadrome, the samba queens, the $1 million costumes. But the true heart of Rio's carnival beats in the streets. In 2026, Rio de Janeiro will have more than 500 officially registered street blocks. But did you know there are unregistered blocks that also parade? The estimate is that more than 700 blocks will circulate through the city streets during Carnival. And check this number out. In 2024, just the Cordão de Bola Preta block, which has been parading on Avenida Rio Branco since 1918, gathered more than 1 million people in a single day, on a single street. Just to give you an idea of what that means, it's as if the entire population of Portugal went to a single carnival block at the same time, on the same street. But wait, did you know there's a block in Rio exclusively for dogs? That's right. The Blocão parades every year with hundreds of costumed pets. There have been dogs dressed as unicorns, as Batman, as werewolves. The owner comes along, of course, also in costume. Because in Rio's carnival, even the dog is obligated to get into the spirit. Another famous block that few outsiders know about, the Banda de Ipanema, which has existed since 1965 and is considered a pioneer in the concept of drag at Brazilian carnival. Before it was cool, before it was mainstream, Banda de Ipanema was already in the streets with all the diversity that carnival represents. And there's more. The Suvaco do Cristo block, which parades literally beneath the Christ the Redeemer statue in the Humaitá neighborhood, is considered one of the most charming in Rio. Imagine dancing with Christ the Redeemer with open arms right above your head. That is Rio de Janeiro. Here's another thing almost no one knows. Rio's samba schools don't start preparing Carnival in January. They start the day after the previous Carnival. That's right, on Ash Wednesday. While most people are still hungover and swearing they'll never drink again, samba schools are already in a meeting deciding next year's theme: 365 days of work. 365 days of sewing, sculpting, rehearsing, studying, and dancing for 70 minutes of parade. You read that right. 70 minutes. That's the maximum time each school has to pass through Avenida Marques de Sapucaí, the famous Rio Sambadrome. Go over that time, lose points. Finish too fast, also lose points. And what does all this cost? This is where the numbers get surreal. A samba school in the Grupo Especial, which is the elite of Rio's carnival, spends on average between $1 and $2 million per parade. The biggest ones, like Portela, Mangueira, and Beija-Flor, have surpassed $3 million in a single carnival. The most expensive float ever built for Rio's Sambadrome cost more than $400,000 alone, a single float, to be seen for 70 minutes and then stored away. That's what you call art. Expensive, loud, and absolutely incredible art. Now let's talk about the stage. The Sambadrome of Marquês de Sapucaí, inaugurated in 1984, designed by architect Oscar Niemeyer. It's 700 meters long and holds 90,000 people in the stands. But here's an absolute 1% curiosity. The Rio Sambadrome doesn't only function during Carnival. For the other 360 days of the year, it's a public school. Children from the community study inside the Sambadrome structures. Where artists parade in February, children learn math in July. Another number that will surprise you. Avenida Marquês de Sapucaí has a slightly irregular floor inclination. This was intentional. Oscar Niemeyer designed the space so that the acoustics of the drum lines would be naturally amplified. In other words, samba echoes louder thanks to the architecture. Genius. And the samba queens? The youngest queen to parade at the Sambadrome was Viviane Araújo, just 20 years old, representing Salgueiro. The most veteran was Dona Ivone Lara, a living samba legend who paraded at over 80 years of age. Carnival has no age. Carnival has no limits. In 2026, the Sambadrome promises innovations never seen before. LED, projections, robotized mechanisms, and floats that interact with the Sambadrome's own lighting. The spectacle is going to be on another level. Let's talk money and numbers, because these figures are absurd. Rio de Janeiro's carnival is the world's largest carnival according to the Guinness Book. But largest here is literal. In 2024, the event attracted more than 7 million tourists, 7 million, to a city that has 6.7 million inhabitants. That means during Carnival, Rio receives more visitors than it has residents. The economic impact? More than $850 million US injected into the city's economy in just 1 week. Hotels, restaurants, transportation, costumes, beer, all in 7 days. Beer deserves its own paragraph. Brazilians consume on average 1.5 billion liters of beer during Carnival. If you put all that into regular bottles, it would fill 57 Olympic swimming pools. That's a lot of beer. That's a lot of Carnival.
This jewel needs
Another
to be perfect.
incredible number.
Agreed. I'll secure
During
the
Rio's
feather.
Carnival, the
Excellent.
city
It looks
registers a drop of
magnificent. A true masterpiece.
up to 40% in violent crimes. Seems paradoxical, but studies show that when the city is in celebration, with community, joy, and belonging, violence rates fall. Carnival is, among other things, an instrument of social peace. And samba, that's the heart of everything. But the history of samba is much more complex and powerful than most people imagine. Samba was officially born in Rio de Janeiro in the early 20th century, with deep roots in African culture, brought by enslaved people. The first samba circles happened in the homes of the Bahian aunties, Black Eye, women who migrated to Rio and kept the musical tradition alive. The most famous of them was Tia Chiata, who lived in the Estacio neighborhood, and whose home was a gathering point for historic samba musicians like Donga, João da Baiana, and Pixinguinha. It was there, in that house, that samba took shape. It was there that Brazil gained its most universal music. Rare curiosity. The first samba officially recorded in Brazil is called Pelo Telefone from 1917. But there is a historical controversy to this day about who actually composed it. Credit was given to Donga, but sambistas of the era claimed the music was a collective composition from Tia Chiata's samba circles. Samba was born amid controversy. Very Brazilian. Today, the samba enredo, the samba sung by schools during the parade, is judged by rigorous criteria. The public knows and sings along to songs that are at most 8 minutes long, but which are repeated hundreds of times during the parade. When the drumline stops and only singing echoes, that, my friend, is one of the most emotional moments a human being can experience. And now, 2026. What does Rio's Carnival have in store this year? The schools are more prepared than ever. After years of pandemic that canceled Carnival in 2021 and postponed it to April 2022, Rio came back harder than ever. And 2026 promises to be historic. Among the highlights, several schools chose themes connected to Afro-Brazilian culture, the preservation of the Amazon rainforest, and historical Black figures erased from history books. Carnival as an instrument of memory and resistance. Street blocks in 2026 arrive with innovations. Themed blocks from TV, series, K-pop blocks, funk blocks, and even gospel pagode blocks that mix religiosity with celebration. Rio doesn't judge. Rio only celebrates. And if you're thinking about going to the next carnival, know this. The best? Sambadrome tickets, called camerats, can cost up to $3,000 per night per person. But the popular stands have much more. Affordable tickets, and the experience is equally incredible. Golden tip. Street blocks are completely free. You pay nothing to see 1 million people dancing on the same street. It's free. Because Rio de Janeiro understands that the best party in the world cannot have a price tag. So there you have it. Rio de Janeiro's carnival is not just a party, it's a collective work of art. It's cultural resistance. It's joy transformed into spectacle. It's Brazil showing the world that, even amid all difficulties, we know how to celebrate life like no one else. If this video opened your eyes to something you didn't know, drop a like down below. Share it with that friend who thinks carnival is just chaos. And subscribe to the channel, because every week there are. Thank you so much for watching until the end. But wait, don't be lazy. Subscribe now and hit the bell so you don't miss tomorrow's video. We post every single day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Vamos dançar! 5 energia! A festa continua!
É isso aí!